Hello, guys.
What is up, guys? I'm sorry if I sound different than Miss Molly today. If you're on YouTube, you can see I'm in a hotel. I am on the run, guys.
On the run.
I am on the run and didn't bring my nice mic, so I'm on little old headphones, but we'll try to make it sound good.
Headphones doing your thing. Yeah. So we want to give a little quick update on SOS Life. So as many of you may remember, we had an incredible guest recently, Katya Libin, and the fairy godmother of fempreneurship. And Alyssa and I were just having a discussion with her this past week about the podcast, where we want to take it, what our goals are for it, and what we are coming up against as we try to grow it. And she gave us some really sound advice that kind of, I think neither of us, it wasn't expected, but it was so needed, right? Like we were just like, we're in some kind of plateau, maybe rut, and we needed a little kickstart of like, to give us some more life. And so what we're going to start doing, you'll notice slight changes, and that is only because we've realized our bread and butter is mental health and creatives. So a lot of our audience, a lot of you guys are creatives in some realm. Obviously, we've had episodes that explain that doesn't mean you're an actor, musician, or a painter, writer only. Like there's a lot of creative things, but we always are angling towards a creative lifestyle. And then tying that in with mental health. So we want to refine this podcast and make it more geared towards that, maintaining your mental health as a creative.
Yeah, I think it's going to be slight, just like Molly said. It's not going to be a hard pivot at all. You're still going to get episodes with just us and with guests, but we're just going to slightly, have a centralized theme, because it speaks to us, it speaks to our souls and our spirits. And, we are, as you see, we've been on Zoom, because our lives are a little crazy. Right now, which is great. But because we still love this and still love talking to you guys, we want to just make sure everything is cohesive and clear, and that we're speaking to what feels right, and hopefully it feels right with you guys too.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more targeted instead of so jumping around like our brains tend to do.
But you can still follow us on our own IGs if you want.
Yeah, if you want the real crazy. Gets a little wild. But this week the topic is ego check. Something that everybody comes up against, but creatives, because our work is so personal oftentimes, and we get so attached to it, and it's really easy to get so attached that you can't even take in any other perspective, or your ego gets in the way of creating the best result. So we wanted to kind of run scenarios by each other, things we've come up against in our careers as creatives, and get like honest input from the other one, and see what you guys think too, because there are times where I can look back and be like, that was that my ego? It was my ego.
I have like I'll go first. So it's like interesting thinking about this, because I think the way I think about it now, maybe I shouldn't color it I'll just tell you the story.
Oh, okay.
When I was in high school, I did competition theater, like competition acting across the state. Like you would be up against hundreds of people doing scenes and monologues and short plays and everything, and just trying to win. It was great. I had so much fun. Then there was different kinds, like there was just different kinds and different types of competitions. And at one of them, you wouldn't always run into the same people. Sometimes you would, but at one of them, my best friend at the time, and we would always compete with each other, or compete with and against, but mostly with. And win a lot. Like we were just really good at picking scenes together. We had just great chemistry. And we were in, I think it was Dramatic Pairs was the room. And we were sitting down. You just like sit down in this room and you watch everybody else perform, and then you go up when it's your turn, all that stuff. And it's judges. We saw these two kids, because we're all high school, go up. They do the scene, but they start it, and they're both white. Mm-hmm. They start the scene we're going to, I don't even know what the fuck the play was, but they just said, we're going to be doing this in the style of kabuki. And we were like, okay. Wow, okay. And so I wish I could like stand up and show it to you. So basically they just kind of like stood there and looked up.
What is kabuki?
It's a good point. Good question. Good question. Well, kabuki, it's a type of Japanese theater style. But what is it? It's a good point. Yeah, good question. So they just go, they're all kind of just standing to the front, not looking at each other. And then it goes, Daryl, how could you do this to me? Cynthia, don't. And you know what I mean? Like their choreography is very like they're just kind of standing there, and one person would step forward, one person would step back, and then they would look to the sides, and like it's very like
it's
linear
kind of like
and
rigid.
Yeah, but it made it different. It popped, and everyone was like, "Wow, this is it's so crazy." So my best friend at the time, we were like, "Wow!" And I think they might have won. We still might have won. I don't remember who. Mm-hmm. But didn't matter. What we learned was that we were going to steal it. And so we were like, we're going back to our like main theater competition sector. And we were going to go and just do this choreography of kabuki and make it up. Mm-hmm. And for this dramatic pair, and it worked. Like we won. I mean, we consistently won anyway, but we were like getting crazy marks. People were coming up to us being like, "Oh my God, you guys are so cool. Like, I can't believe you guys did that." And when people ask us like, "What is it? Like, what is kabuki?" We're like, "We don't know." We just made it up. It's very colonizing and not great. But I think this speaks more to American bastardizing culture. Not really learning much. But I share this story because I kind of think about that a lot, and I tell people about sometimes with art, I don't know if this is my ego, I think it's so subjective, and it's everything and it's nothing, that it doesn't matter if it has a meaning. You just have to make it look like it does. Yeah.
I agree with that.
So I pose this as this kind of like more of an existential I know, question about what art is as an artist. And I don't know if that's just my ego being like, oh, I didn't even have to learn that art is nothing. Art is everything and nothing at the same time. Or it's, Alyssa, you should have learned what that was. You're actually just speaking out of your ass to make yourself seem cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really interesting topic, because it's such a fine line between obviously appropriation and just appropriation and ignorance and creative freedom. And that line, changes situation to situation and industry to industry, and it is really hard. Like, I think I always think about this stuff with music, obviously, but just that angle of, okay, well, if this is what's coming out of me, I can't help that. Like, this is what I'm creating, this is what's coming out, and this is what I'm creating. But I do think, in my opinion, is that, because that age is one thing, like high school, I feel like now,
like 17.
where we are now, I believe we have a responsibility to educate ourselves. Like, you don't have to go out and say like, this is what I'm doing and why, and this is what this is, and this is what all this means. But at least to inform yourself when you're doing something like that, so that you understand the origins of it. And then what do they say? Like, learn the rules so you can break them, right?
Yes.
So it's like, because after that, what you do with it, and usually it's like a fragment. Oh, what about this style? This moved everybody around me, including me. What about that? Is it okay? I'll take some of that and I'll go use. So then it's never really a pure state thing anyway. Like you said, it's everything and nothing. Like you're picking up things from everywhere around you and you're absorbing them and you're a sponge. And that's the beauty of being a creator and creating. And so I think it's like this toe the line of, when it comes to cultural appropriation is the main thing, like which you highlighted right away in this situation. Like,
but it's like there's two parts to this. There's a cultural appropriation, being, the American uneducated person that I am, and banking on the fact that everybody else in this theater competition is going to be just as ignorant because they didn't pick up that it was complete bullshit what we were doing. And the couple that we took it from could have been, it was complete bullshit too. Or they could have actually studied it. No one knows. Right. But we were able to pull the veil. So there's that. It's like, it's culture appropriation, banking on the uneducated American students, but also how can you still be in art? Is art completely organic all the time? Kind of. I don't.
No, I know what you're saying, because it's like, I think that just because you don't have an answer for everything, part of being an artist is understanding how to connect with people and how to move people in whatever it is that you do. And so I think that there's a lot to be said for like, okay, well, this is something that touches people and this is something that moves people, and how can I use that? It's really like,
what if you wrote lyrics in your song that you didn't experience? Let's say you really don't know much about, but it will fucking slap in the song, and that someone will know.
Yeah. Okay. I actually just did a video on TikTok about this, like my songwriting process, and I was saying that a lot of the times I don't adhere to, I only write what I know and what I've experienced. I think that is an extremely limiting box. I think it's a dangerous place to stay as an artist, because we only know so much. You don't know that much. I write to understand myself. I write to learn things I don't know. And so oftentimes I'm writing things that I surprise myself. I'm like, well, what is this about? Because I'm not really thinking about a specific thing I went through, but I think that line, what you just said, like if I write lyrics that are maybe something I haven't gone through, but that came very naturally to me in the writing process, and I'm like, this feels like what I need to say here, then I don't have a problem with it, because I'm like, I feel like I'm channeling something and it's coming through me and it feels natural coming out of me. If I write something that is like to try to tap into something that I really don't resonate with, just because I think it'll be popular or it's going to slap, I'm like, it doesn't feel even natural coming out of me, and people are going to pick up on that. Like, people are going to hear it. You have to allow for yourself to surprise yourself in the creation process. Like, whoa, I didn't even know where is this even coming from? Like, that's why creation is healing, because you tap into things that you didn't know you felt or knew, or that you don't know yet. And all of that, I think, is the magic in it. So I don't think any of that should be shut down. I don't think we should be limited by, have I done a full book report on where this technique comes from and who started it and what years it was popular? And that's like completely takes the magic away. While also, like we were saying, like needing to acknowledge, so we're not appropriating and disrespecting at the same time.
Yeah, it is very strange, because there is at least I can speak to the acting world, like there is definitely a conversation between whether an actor should go to acting school and learn techniques, or if they have the raw talent, just skip school, go right to auditioning, so no one can fuck with the magic that you already have. Because you could get other voices in your head, and we've talked about here and we'll continue to talk about how predatory acting schools can be in general. So I don't know, because there is something to learning techniques. There is something to learning how other people in the world do it, but there is something to learning on your feet, learning by watching those movies or by doing theater companies that are very diverse, so you're still working.
I just remembered something I was going to say when you were earlier, when you were saying another level to this story and the situation is that you guys like pulled the veil over, just assuming that people won't know. And I was going to say, as creatives, part of the magic is, or not the magic, the thing you're trying to tap into, you want to captivate the audience. And once you understand the power of suggestion and the power of going up there like you know exactly what you're doing and people will not question you. It's like that whole thing of, have you heard, like, if you just walk anywhere with a clipboard, like walk into any building or any like set or anything, you just carry a clipboard and walk in, no one's going to question you because you just look like, but it's like, that is, there's a dark and a light side to it, but it is useful to know, like, as a performer, you need to be, the performances I like to watch are the ones where I'm up there just like in awe of them. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing or what, but like, this is working and I don't know. It's like you're in their control essentially. And as a performer, the greatest performers know how to tap into that right away. And that's not always a dark, negative control in a bad way thing. It's, you're immersing your audience in something. So I think that's the other point I was trying to make about this story is like, you guys also grappling with the fact of like, wow, we were captivated and I don't even know what they were doing up there. And I don't know if they know what they were doing up there, but like, maybe we can use that. And that's you testing the waters with like, how do we grab an audience like that? And that's such a beautiful thing in creating and performing.
Everything you said, I agree with. I think what's so interesting, and I've had these conversations before, is when you're an artist that's creating, there's so much of it to me that is manipulation because you're manipulating an audience to feel something. Yeah. And sometimes I think the word maybe manipulation is very strong and it doesn't mean to be. It could be it sound very abrasive or somewhat abusive.
Yeah,
but
it can have a negative connotation, but it's not.
Yeah, you're a conductor of people's emotional life. So I think as an actor, I've kind of realized that, right, from going into acting school and learning all these techniques of how to drop in and like, there's like method acting where people have to literally be in a cabin in the woods to get into their character, and they'll treat the people around them like shit because the character they're about to play treats the people around them like shit. It's just like, stop. There's a story of, you've seen Hereditary.
Yes.
Of the actor Alex Wolff, I believe, who played the son. He was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but he's a method actor, and he, talked about, and people talked about how he went cuckoo a little bit, during the filming of that to get into character. And Toni Collette, who is brilliant and is everything, she was just like, it's just acting. Like, she laughs in between takes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes it can be a little, it'll stick with her a little bit. Right. But it's just pretending. Right. And it's like, sometimes I want to think about art as this flowery thing, but sometimes it's just faking it. Yeah. Sometimes it's just pretending so you can share something to an audience that you have to give. And I don't think you have to put yourself through this rigorous training process and like think of yourself so seriously in order to share. Yeah, I agree. I think it can be worse when you do. Yeah, and I get it. You want to be an artist. You want to, bleed for your art and do everything. But I just feel like, everything is kabuki. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to have a meaning. Someone's going to have a meaning from it if you just kind of fake it. And I don't know if that's and my also, ego, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Also, like, each acting style, these styles are created by creatives, and then academics look at them, name them, study them,
break down why they have this effect and why they were used here and why. But the people just coming up with it and doing it they moved on. They did it. They used it. It tapped into something, and they went and did something else. I used to think about this in college when they would have us examine a song for like an entire quarter, like a whole semester. And I'm like, listen, you guys, you could sit here all day and talk about why Miles Davis put these two notes right here and how it's really interesting because in the next line, the notes are so similar. And I'm like, I guarantee you this is pure channeling and talent. And yes, you can learn a lot by studying the greats. But to me, that's me listening to him, being moved by him, and somehow alchemizing it into what I create. That does not mean I'm breaking down, looking at the notes on a page, analyzing why he maybe chose this note instead of this note, because it's flying by so fast. There's not a reason behind every single note. There's not an academic, logical reason behind every single note that he is playing. And so I think it's like that with this kind of stuff where it's like, well, academia can really fuck up the arts like so bad. And it's just like, there are people who are meant to be professors of these things and who are more inclined towards like studying in academia and analyzing the art. And then there are those of us who are just meant to do it. And I don't want to sit in a room for like a whole 3 months analyzing why these notes happened. Like, what?
I know. I think there is a time and place for those conversations, because you can be passionate about the artwork and revere the artwork and want to study it. But to a certain point, come on, like, there's so many artists that will talk about how the sausage is made, how they write a song or how they write a play or how they get into character. And it really is like Toni Collette, I just did it. Like, there's this kind of the same thing. There's this actor, I'm forgetting his name. He was in like Love Actually, older actor. Anyway, Bill Nighy or something Nighy. Anyway, he was doing this play for a while. I think this was a few years ago. I don't know if it was in London or Broadway, but 8 shows a week, like a very dramatic, intense performance. And an acting student who was in the crowd, like, talked to him after curtain call and like during signing playbills and stuff. And she was just like, you're so amazing. Like what you did up there and like your arc and the emotional, everything you did was just so amazing. Like, I need to learn how to do that. How did you do that? And he like, what are you thinking up there on that stage? And he's like, honestly, I'm thinking about what I'm getting for dinner later. And she was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you really can't live there. Like, it's going to be in your body. You got to trust it. But like, just because you see someone exude, like someone creating art in whatever way, whether it's singing or whether it's acting, just because you see someone creating art in whatever way doesn't mean that their brain is fucking Beethoven, right? Like they're not actively thinking of just like, I'm brilliant, this is brilliant, or like, I don't know.
And I don't even think Beethoven was, to be real. Like a lot of these people that were just like, they're incredible, like not to diminish anyone's talent, but the way that we revere certain people, usually after they're dead, honestly, and then it's like they become this like mythical being that's like, they're a human being also. And it's just like, maybe they just, you really don't know. To me, that when it comes to analyzing artists' motives is where it's a waste of time. To me, it's just like, you don't even know. Maybe they were just like starving, want to finish the song so they could go eat something, or maybe they just, I don't know.
Yeah, they could have written this song that is like, it's, the lyrics and everything, it just sounds like the most insane breakup ever, and it speaks to you and it got you through your own heartache. And then you ask the artist, what was the inspiration? They're like, oh, I didn't, McDonald's was out of Big Macs one day. And I was really upset.
For real. Yes. That's the thing. So it's just like, I think we can waste a lot of time getting too heady about all this stuff. Yeah. And so the magic is in the effect. The magic is in like effect of what this does. And then with the added layer, like we just said, responsibility, especially as white people, but to educate yourself. And so you understand that line between appreciation and appropriation and what is disrespectful, but really like, the effect of, the effect is what we want to have, no matter what your craft is.
And sometimes there is, and like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I've gotten into wormholes. Like there's like TikToks that break down Kendrick Lamar songs, and like the fucking poetry that he writes is very intentional. Like there is some intentionality to a lot of work out there. I don't want to be like, I don't want
intention.
People to think I'm shitting on. I don't want to shit. There is definitely like gorgeous and beautiful poetic things happening in a lot of work,
like really intricate and in-depth. I think it's worth studying and analyzing those like words, like for example, like because they're putting them together very intentionally. I think where it gets lost is if you get so hung up on why did he choose this word over this word and how can I, that's the wrong rabbit hole to go down, instead of why did these words move me so much? What is he referencing? Wow, he went there with it. Wow, that's a metaphor for this. Wow, that's where your brain should go in all the deep analyzing.
Yeah, and honestly, and it's also, just like you said, it's not to say you can't analyze your favorite artist. Do it.
Right.
But if you want to be an artist yourself, you don't have to get so hung up on the most brilliant techniques ever. You don't have to get hung up on bleeding yourself for whatever you want to create, because something's going to make it, something's going to pick up on it. If you're still honest, still be honest.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think sometimes you can fake it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So that's some of the best stuff. So my situation that I thought of when it comes to ego check is, and I like you said, we don't like color it before we tell the story, but basically I was working for a long time on this project, this music project. And periodically throughout the process, I was like, okay, these songs are ready. Like I'm ready to put them out because I'm constantly creating more stuff that's coming in behind it. And like, I can't just sit on everything forever. And the person I was working with was very much like, well, I mean, you can do what you want. It's your project, but I'm just saying it's not ready yet. These things can be tweaked. And I am very much, especially with my art, I am a perfectionist. I'm not the type of musician to just like create something and great, put it out. Like I go back into it. I tweak stuff. But this is where I'm like, where does the ego come into play versus,
advocating for yourself as an artist, advocating for your voice.
Because it's just, exactly. Because it's very much like I could tweak the songs I'm working on now. I could go back to them over and over and over for the rest of my life if I wanted, and just keep going. Anything I've put out, I listen to now and I'm like, I would change that, or probably. But where's the line, and how do you know if it's your ego telling you like, no, let me just put it out, or if it's your ego telling you like, no, I have to make it better, and where to find that balance of like, it's time to set this one free, and the things that you are improving and your craft is changing and you're evolving, put that into the next one.
Yeah, that's interesting, because this is more like, when do you release, essentially?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, because your ego can hold you back. Your ego can force you to rush it, and it also could force you to hold on to it.
Well, I think this is an interesting conversation, because now we have to talk about ego and fear.
Yes.
Is it your ego that's bringing it back, or is it your fear of like, no matter how good I make this, it still might not be whatever, resonate, or be insanely successful or whatever, like no matter what. So that's a thing of just like, if I hold on to it, it's still mine. I still don't have anybody else's opinions on it. I still don't have the expectation of a fuck ton of downloads. I still don't have the expectation of all of this shit. It's still mine.
It's like a self-protective.
Yeah.
But then it can be a self-protective thing. And then also is the other side of it, which at the time I felt like was happening, where I'm like, well, when is it ever going to be ready? If your judge is, oh, it could be better. It could be better. Yes, it could be better. I could be better. I'm always going to be improving.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sound this way in 6 months. I'm not going to sound this way next year. So what does that mean? Do I just hold on to all the stuff I'm working now
It's
so
so
that I can
true.
sing with the voice I'll have next year? Like,
Yeah. I was literally just talking about this last night with my friend. I did a feedback. He wrote a play and he had a reading and a feedback session yesterday. And I participated and gave feedback, and then we talked on the phone afterward. And this has been like he's written so many different iterations of the script. And he was just kind of like processing all the notes that he got, and they were all really helpful and great. You know, there's some that he was just like, yeah, I got to figure out, like, I'm keep getting this one note on this character over and over again. I got to feel like what I have to do. And he always helps me for our readings for our show. So he gives really great feedback. He's a great writer. So it's like, I understood that kind of dilemma, but I was telling him, and I'm just like, you know, no matter what, you're always going to get feedback to improve something.
always.
Like everybody's always has something to say. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you got to be like, I want this out. I need to share it because it has to be done. But no matter what, at any point, someone's got something to say to improve that. And you just got to like be like, all right, on to the next. Or it's got to be like, I don't really give a shit anymore. Or something. Maybe you will be like, fuck, I guess I should have done that. But you don't know until you just fucking do it. But no matter what, everyone will always have something to say. It could be the most brilliant. It could be fucking Shakespeare, this play. And people will be like, see, I didn't get that climax. That was like predictable. That ending was predictable. But you don't know what's the art. Like maybe that was the point, was it to be predictable. It's just so subjective.
Yeah, the reason that things often have the impact that they do is because they came at that moment.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of it too. Like you think of how much an artist, like think of how different Kanye is now from when he came out.
Right.
And he's had this whole metamorphosis music wise and obviously personal life aside, but just like his songs that he was doing at the beginning and like 808s and Heartbreak, Late Registration, all of that kind of stuff is like my favorite kind of things. And they, you know, had he held on to those over time and like, oh, and I changed, I'm a different artist now, so I'll do this to it now. And I'm a different artist now, so I'll do this to it now. And then say he puts it out 10 years later because he just keeps, they change with him as he's changing. However, how do I articulate this? So like I could keep these songs with me and change them all throughout the years as I change, and I'm never releasing them. Or I can release songs it's like dropping breadcrumbs along the trail so people can watch your evolution as an artist because they see what came out of you at this moment, what came out of you at this moment.
Exactly.
Instead of nothing comes out of me because I'm holding it so close to me so that it can change with me in real time the whole time. And then what's the point in that? Because nobody gets to witness it. No one gets to experience it, connect with it, because you're just making sure it mirrors you at all times.
Yeah.
And so I think,
only you will know when it's time to bring it out. No one else can tell you it's not ready. You got to do this. If you feel it's ready, that's what counts. It's your fucking work. No one else can tell you that because they could be wrong.
Just like releasing the fear of what if, or I mean, this is bound to happen. I release something and at some point it's not going to reflect me anymore. Because I'm so far beyond that. But that's the point. Like, we shouldn't be afraid to release something for fear that it won't mirror us in a year from now. Or what if I'm a better singer than that? Well, I hope I am. But like, this is where I'm at now. And this has to come out. Because what I found myself feeling like was when I think of being like the writing process, I feel like a vessel, like something is being poured into me and through me. And if I have to keep that channel clear. And if I'm like stockpiling all of this creation, all of this stuff that I've done and made and sang and recorded, and it's just like I'm not giving it life outside of myself. I'm not releasing it. I'm not sharing it or anything. It is like, it's piling up and filling me up, and I'm not a clear channel anymore. So the stuff that I'm continuing to write is just like not moving through me.
You're speaking right to me right now.
Yeah. It's so hard.
I know exactly what you mean. It is hard. I just think, and this is not even like to your ego. This is about so many other people's ego when it comes to a specific artist's voice and their project and what they're creating, and everybody else that they're letting in. You know what I mean? Like that person that was telling you that, like, it's people that curated and people that you trust to a certain extent. You know, you can always trust people to an extent, but you have to trust yourself the most.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, even in the feedback session I was talking about, like, our egos are at play with wanting to, like, say the most clever notes and think about all did you mean that? Like, me, I'm talking about, like, myself included. Like, this is just a room full of writers and producers, you know, you're just kind of like, oh, did you mean, like, what about this character? Did they really mean this and stuff like that? And, you know, and my friend was telling me that he goes to this writers conference and they're really intense. Like, people will just, you'll enjoy this story. It's really quick. He said there was this one play where this woman wrote a play about intense grief, a tragedy in her life. It was like semi-autobiographical. And she's white, and, you know, the person that played that character is white, and then she has a best friend, and there was one, and I mean the best friend wasn't in it very much, but there was this one writer who was white who apparently, like, and this is in front of like hundreds of people, it's like a huge panel of people, was just like, I don't think you understand, like, was just making the whole thing about race. The play about when the play had nothing to do with race. Oh God. And it was just like, people will just see what they want to see. Yes. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. And they also will we can get too wrapped up in how we want to appear to others. Like you're saying, when you're in a room of other writers, where it's like, I want them to acknowledge my wit, my cleverness, my, like, whatever, my humor, my intelligence, my witty references. Like, I want all of that to be seen.
I could just be projecting too.
Yeah, but it's just like, that's because they're passionate about what you do, and then you're around other people that do the same thing. It's like nothing hits quite as hard as approval and accolades from those in your industry who know what you really do, not just like, I love your songs. I'm not a musician, but I love your songs. That means a lot. And that's a separate realm. When somebody who's like if my favorite producer or artist were to be like, wow, this song of yours really, I would be like, oh my God, like, oh my God, you just want, so then when you're talking about being in like a conference situation, or it's just everybody's egos are in the room because everyone's trying to stand out and impress, but it just causes people to stomp all over each other, and then no one's being heard because they're so consumed with what they're going to say next.
Yeah, but that producer could also have a huge ego. You know what I mean? Like, you're coming in from like jaded because they didn't make it until they were in their 40s, and you're in your 30s, and there's going to be like, you don't know what you're talking. They're already going to have this. That's why, like, acting schools are sinister too, can be, because acting teachers will have this mentality as well, and they'll project it onto their students of just like, you got what it takes, when they're not the fucking arbiter of
no, and
of
honestly, they're like the last. I mean, when I was in college too, I was like, these are music professors, and they're professors for a reason. Yeah. This is not what I'm trying to do. So I can learn from you. Obviously, I can learn from you. But make no mistake, I'm not here to emulate you, because this is not the career I'm trying to have. Like, I can take what I can from you. But it's just like,
no matter
there's a
what,
lot of bitterness.
Yes. In this field, as a creative, there are so many egos at play at all times.
Yeah.
So understanding and trusting your own voice is the only thing, and it sounds very vague and maybe woo-woo, but like, it's true. It's like,
true.
you will know when it's done. You will know when to, you know, step back from the computer, step back from the notebook, and just be like, I have to be done.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, there could be fear at play. You could be letting other voices in that are just kind of muddying up your perception.
Yeah, you're right.
I think maybe a good rule of thumb there is giving yourself a deadline. Like, no matter what, I have to be done by this day. So you're not letting, whether it's your ego, whether it's fear, whatever, or other people, like, you're like, I'm going to be done by this, because for your mental health and your sanity and for your sake, for you to evolve and create more things that are beyond that, you have to put it down at some point.
You do. And you lose steam if you sit on it and then save it for later to share or to release or whatever the project is, because it's new to everyone else. So it might hit them great, but you lose that. Like, I just created this and now I'm releasing it. Like, that's part of the magic little bubble of time. Like, I sat on my last music video for way too long for a number of reasons. But by the time I released it, I was already like, I wouldn't do this the same anymore. But if I had released it shortly after we shot it, I'd be like feeling very different about it, because I'm like, I just did this. I was great. I did the best I could right now. So I think that you're right. That rule of thumb.
Be realistic of how long you want to immerse yourself into this specific frame of mind, because whatever you're creating is like your frame of mind in that moment. Like, be realistic on how long you want to commit to that, because it might not. Some people can't. Like, I've heard of like writers that wrote a project 10 years ago and they're still shopping it around. That just means they gave themselves 10 years, and maybe, you know, who knows if they have the capacity to do it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. They're doing it. But I think you just got to be realistic with yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes we start things before their time anyway. And we it's natural to put it down, and you pick it up later and turn it into something that's like, oh my God, this is why it didn't happen before, because now. So that happens too. But I think it's just staying open and in touch with yourself, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Whole therapy session.
I know. I think this was good. I like these conversations of what is art? What is ego? What is ego as an artist? Because that's, I mean, we could literally talk about this all day long. Like, I would love to talk about this with other artists. Like,
I know, me too. Yeah.
About ego and art. We should.
That could be like
this will be like a part one.
So many interviews. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
Well, guys.
Oh, yeah.
We're just about to just. Sorry, guys. Molly just wanted to fucking.
I just turned off my mic.
Did you really?
No.
Oh. Okay. Well, you can follow us on IG at the SOS Pod. We're also on YouTube, SOS with Molly and Alyssa. Subscribe to us there. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, everywhere. And also leave a review, because it helps us reach more people. Definitely. Also, please engage in our stories or DMs if you have episode topics that you want to hear about, or if you're struggling with something in regards to these types of things, mental health, creatives, career fulfillment when it comes to those things. So reach out. And I'm Molly Cottrell. I'm Melissa Rosano. Here's to turning meltdowns into magic.